The Villisca Axe Murders is one of the most notorious unsolved crimes in American history. The brutal killings took place in Villisca, Iowa, on the night of June 9, 1912, when 6 members of the Moore family and 2 young house guests were murdered in a grisly fashion. The victims were Josiah Moore, 43, a prosperous businessman and the father of the family; Sarah Moore, 39, Josiah's wife; Herman Moore, 11, their son; Mary Moore, 10, their daughter; Arthur Moore, 7, their son; Paul Moore, 5, their son; Lena Gertrude, or Tenna Stillinger, 12, a family friend and house guest; Ina Stillinger, 8, Lena's sister and the other house guest. The family lived in a modest 2-story house at 308E, 2nd Street in Villisca, a small town in southwest Iowa. The Stillinger sisters, Lena and Ina, were spending the night at the Moore house after attending a church service with the Moore children. On the night of June 9, 1912, after the Moore family and the Stillinger sisters returned home from church, they went to bed. Early the next morning, the house was found in a horrific state. The bodies of the 8 victims were discovered by Lena's parents, who came to visit the Moore home and found the door locked. After getting a neighbor to break the door down, they discovered the scene of the massacre. The victims were brutally bludgeoned to death with an axe while they slept in their beds. Each victim had been struck multiple times in the head with a weapon, which was later determined to be Josiah Moore's own axe. The killer appeared to have used the blunt side of the axe to carry out the murders. The murder weapon was found in the house, though it was wiped clean, and the victims' skulls were crushed beyond recognition. What was especially eerie was that the killer had not only killed the victims, but also covered their faces with bedding after the murders. The perpetrator had then wiped the axe clean of fingerprints and made an unsettling departure, leaving no immediate clues to their identity. The investigation into the murders began the following morning, but the crime scene yielded very few clues. The police were initially baffled by the brutality of the killings and the lack of a clear motive. The fact that the murderer had taken the time to clean up and make sure the weapon was wiped clean was highly unusual, suggesting a methodical killer. The Moore house was thoroughly investigated, but no signs of forced entry were found. The doors were locked from the inside, and no valuables were taken from the house. This led to the theory that the killer might have been someone known to the family, or an acquaintance who gained access to the house without suspicion. Despite questioning numerous people, including local residents, suspects, and even people from outside the town, the investigation yielded no concrete evidence. Several theories emerged over time, but none could definitively explain who committed the murders or why. Possible suspects. Several people were considered suspects during the investigation, and various theories about the killer's identity emerged over the years. Frank Jones, a prominent businessman and former employer of Josiah Moore. Frank Jones was one of the earliest suspects. There was speculation that Jones might have been motivated by a personal vendetta after Josiah Moore allegedly had an affair with Jones's daughter-in-law. Some theorized that Jones may have wanted to eliminate Moore and his family in retaliation. However, there was no concrete evidence linking Jones to the murders, and he denied any involvement. Reverend George Kelly, in 1914, a traveling preacher named Reverend George Kelly became a key suspect. Kelly had been in Villisca the night of the murders, and some witnesses claimed he had acted suspiciously in the days following the killings. He was eventually arrested and charged with the murders after allegedly confessing to them during a police interrogation. However, Kelly's confession was inconsistent, and his mental state was questioned. He was ultimately acquitted of the crime, but he remained a suspect for many years. The Bloody Man. Another theory posits that the killer might have been a mysterious man known as the Bloody Man who was seen near the Moore house around the time of the murders. This man was reportedly covered in blood and seen walking around the area before the bodies were discovered. However, like many other theories, this one remains unproven. A mysterious drifter or serial killer. Some have speculated that the murders were committed by a drifter or serial killer who moved through small towns, committing random acts of violence. This theory suggests that the killings may have been part of a pattern of similar murders, but no connection has ever been conclusively established. A common question that arises is the motive behind the murders. Since nothing was stolen from the Moore house and there was no sign of sexual assault or robbery, many investigators initially believed that the killings were personal in nature. The fact that the axe used in the murders was a family tool further supports the theory that the killer knew the family. However, the lack of any clear motive or explanation for the deaths has led to more confusion and suspicion. Despite multiple investigations over the years, no one was ever convicted of the Villisca Axe Murders, and the case remains unsolved to this day. The crime continues to haunt Villisca, and the house where the murders took place is now a popular site for true crime enthusiasts and paranormal investigators. Some believe the house is haunted by the spirits of the victims, adding an eerie layer to an already unsettling case. The Villisca Axe Murders were never fully explained, and over the years, theories about the identity of the killer and the motive behind the murders still abound, but the truth remains elusive. The case has inspired numerous books, documentaries, and even ghost tours, all attempting to shed light on one of the darkest chapters in Iowa's history.